Hey, so my name's Johnny. I've just moved to Japan and I'm going to be here for at least a year teaching English at a middle school near Mount Fuji in Shizuoka Prefecture. So I'm going to keep a vlog to kind of keep track of my time here and to share cool parts of Japan with the rest of the world. So that's this. I've been kind of building up for this for several months now. I've had this pinned down for a while. I've been prepping for it by cramming Japanese, listening to a lot of Japanese music, watching Japanese films, and just generally getting pretty excited. So I was pretty much set to leave the UK, and then at the last minute when I was ready to go, the world got overtaken by coronavirus, which was great. That made getting here a nightmare, so here's a recap of how I got here. Hey, so I'm in my kitchen in Edinburgh. I'm leaving for London tomorrow. It's about 2 a.m. at the moment. I'm doing as much like last minute packing, last minute eating a leftover food, last minute drinking a leftover wine as possible, feeling nervous and sleepy and excited. So yeah, if you caught that, I'm from Edinburgh. I've lived there the last few years and it felt pretty weird moving out. It felt pretty painful too, because I dragged a disgusting amount of luggage the best part of a mile from my place to the station, and I needed that long journey to recover from it. Anyhow, setting out, it was kind of cute. So like, on the way down, I passed almost the exact spot where about a year ago my aunt's cats and a large bottle of wine convinced me to apply for my job in Japan in the first place, just like near the coast, just south of Berwick. Anyway, getting closer to London, so like when I left Edinburgh, coronavirus obviously had huge awareness, but it hadn't really taken off in Scotland. There'd been barely any Scottish cases, and getting closer to London, there was this much more like intense feeling of, whoa, okay, this is serious, this is happening. So just a different atmosphere. Anyway, I said goodbye to a lot of people there, which was lovely but also kind of sad because I wouldn't see him again for ages. And I went to a very special place with a special someone. So that was Chinatown with Corinne. Corinne is a fairly cool human being who's responsible for about 50% of everything I know about Japan. So cheers, Corinne. And if you're watching, cheers, Kaori, for the other 50%. Both being extremely helpful in wildly different ways. So I jumped on a train out of town and went to stay with my folks for a few days as like a kind of last stop before the airport. They live in the middle of nowhere near Guildford, which is cute. So I hung out with them, I hung out with their cat, I hung out with their super scary new dog, and I spent a few days just like aggressively packing. Which was fun. Yep, so then I headed over to the airport, ready to jump on a plane to Istanbul and carry on to Tokyo. Or so I thought. See, while I was literally en route to the airport, this happened.
I've taken the decision to advise British nationals against non-essential travel globally.
At which point my airline immediately cancelled all its flights and I was totally screwed for a few hours. Fortunately, I found a more reliable flight the next day and headed over to Dubai. It was weird at the airport. I had this experience that I'd never really had as a British person at a British airport, where I was the only person there not travelling home, wherever home may be. I must have been pretty much the only British national leaving the country, which felt mega surreal, and all the European flights were just kaput, not happening. It was kind of intense at the airports and on the flights, so like as soon as I got to Heathrow, the first thing, like not even getting into the terminal, the first thing that happens to me is I meet this really lovely Thai student from like the Uni of Bath who gives me a mask and it's just like, you just got here, take this, and I'm like, oh thanks, but you know, kind of whoa. And then on a flight to Dubai, the lady next to me, like she gets to her seat and she immediately disinfects the whole thing with her personal supply of hand sanitizer. Like the armrest, the table, everything. And she looks at me and I'm just like, oh shit, you know, like I can't even, like, I can't breathe on you, I can't look at you wrong. It was she kind of fell asleep in front of the flight monitor the whole way over, but that was weird. Anyway, got to Dubai airport, had a couple of delirious hours in transit, and then flew on to Tokyo. So when I arrived in Tokyo, the coronavirus situation didn't seem to have kicked off. Basically, the Olympics hadn't yet been postponed, and the theory goes that the government were avoiding testing people to try and keep it for 2020. So the stats looked way lower than they actually were, and no internal measures had been taken against it. What they were starting to do was to crack down on international travel, so I arrived in like the final stages of the window where it was possible to get to Japan from the UK without having to self-isolate for a fortnight. I expected to have a pretty rough time at immigration, but I was kind of from one side to the other within 10 minutes with my shiny new residence card and all my luggage, so there you go. Anyway, I got to my hostel at about 1 a.m. I was staying at this really lovely place in Asakusa that I would totally recommend to anyone once it's easy to travel to Tokyo again. The people there were lovely, the beds, the kind of box beds were super comfy. It looked like, people asked me whether or not it was a capsule place, and it wasn't like that. It's more that a lot of these places tend to be quite space efficient, so it was much more social than the capsule place would have been. Anyway, Asakusa is a pretty nice part of town. It was really sunny, and I had a great time wandering around, getting lost, and just enjoying Tokyo without tourists. It was pretty surreal because of how jet-lagged I was. So, like, as anyone who knows me well knows, I'm a big fan of the Dark Souls video games. They have this really distinctive way of introducing a new level whenever you step into it. So in my head, walking around Tokyo kind of felt like this. I only had a couple of days in Tokyo, so I made the most of them. When I arrived, Sakura season, the time of year where all the cherry blossoms come out and then fall a week later, was just beginning to start. So, like, walking through Ueno Park here, you can see that, like, all the trees on the promenade are just starting to bud. But this one, off to the side, for some reason, is, like, way ahead of the game. This one is, like, already out, which means it'll be the first to have all its blossoms fall, and it'll look really sad compared to the others in a couple of weeks' time. So I met up with a friend and we went round Tower Records, this enormous, amazing and totally overpriced CD store where you can find like any music ever as long as you're willing to cough up. I somehow managed to get through without spending anything, but in a different store, like kind of used and in really good condition, I found probably my favourite album of the last 10 years for like a really cheap price, and I sure as hell bought that. Probably the coolest part of the whole trip was when I went to Koenji. So Koenji is this Western Tokyo neighbourhood that features really prominently in the Haruki Murakami novel 1Q84. There's this park there where one of the characters, while standing on a slide on the park, realises that he's in a parallel world, and it's like a big moment in the book. Spoilers. So I wanted to go there and take a photo of the park. And I got there and it's like a really sunny day and all the kids are out. Taking photos of kids in Japan is not good. I think there's like laws against it, it's frowned upon or whatever, so I thought better of it. And I'm sitting there on a bench and I kind of explain in broken Japanese what I'm doing there to the guy next to me, and he turns out to be a champ, really cool guy, kind of shows me around a neighbourhood, shows me this building that Murakami apparently lived in as a student in like the late 60s, and we end up hitting up the local izakaya and just hanging out for an hour or so. So that was all unexpected, but I'm pretty glad I went out there. So the last thing I wanted to cover was just a quick comparison of what panic buying at home looks like compared to in Tokyo. As everyone knows, UK supermarkets look a little bit bleak at the moment, especially if you're looking for toilet roll, which is just, like barely anywhere to be found. Or I discovered if you're looking to buy more than 2 packs of paracetamol, which is not allowed. Today I learned. So I was originally going to hit up the biggest supermarket I could find in Tokyo and just run a comparison. This turned out to be kind of pointless because I went to a local convenience store, looked around, and everything was chill. Everything was fine, loo roll as you'd expect, kept everything in its right place. I've heard since the panic buying has gotten a little bit worse, but I've been out of town since then, so can't confirm. And all my local supermarkets here at the moment look fine, so that's nice to know. So before I knew it, I was leaving Tokyo and heading off to Hamamatsu for my teacher training. I'll fill you in on that next time, along with what coronavirus is like now in Japan and what it's been like settling down in East Shizuoka. Till then, ciao for now.